Okay, we're in the middle of the chuppah process. Okay, so we learned you call up the witnesses, you ask the witnesses in front of the chassan, you ask the chassan in front of the witnesses. Is it your ring? Is it worth a pruta? Then the chassan holds the ring in his right hand. Then you do siddur kedushin. Okay, there's two brachas that the rabbi makes. It's a brei pri agafen, and it's a bracha shekachon mitzvahs tzvanu al orayis, the bracha for kedushin. So after the bracha, the chassan takes a little sip, the kala takes a little sip of the wine, and then the chassan in front of the two witnesses, this is the most important part of the chuppah, by the way, is the kedushin, the chassan giving the kala the ring in front of the two witnesses, and he says, and he's, according to our custom, you start putting on the ring, and you put it on your right index finger. Okay, so you put the ring on the right index finger, and when you start putting it on, you say loud, that the witnesses can hear it. Now, what the chassanim should know, but they don't, they keep pushing the ring on. The ring is not made for this finger. The ring is made for this finger, which is narrower than this finger. Why do we put it on this finger? The halacha is because that's where in the olden days tradition. Yeah, technically if your guy puts it on any finger, it's good. If he puts it into her hand, it's good. The reason why you put it on the right index finger is because in the olden times, that's where women wore their rings, on that finger. So to keep tradition, now, what's interesting, what happens if the chassan or the kala are left-handed? Now normally, you do it the right hand to the kala's right hand. Now what happens if the chassan's left-handed? So then, according to halacha, he should give the ring with his left hand, because that's his right hand. What happens if the kala is left-handed? So those poskim, there are not too many poskim talk about it, but those poskim that talk about it, basically the halacha is she puts it on her left hand, in her right hand anyway. Well, again, because the ring, wearing the ring has nothing to do if you're right-handed or left-handed. So but again, if you did it on the other hand, it's 100% kosher. You don't have to redo the kedushin. But so the chassan gives it with his right hand, unless if he's left-handed, he gives it with his left hand on the kala's right index finger, and he says it out mekudeshly, and that's part one of the kedushin.
What do you do when there's no ring, when the ring gets lost?
Okay. So what happens if the ring gets lost? So a few years ago, I did a wedding here in Sephardic temple, and we're about to go out to the chuppah, and it's raining. And the chassan's father realized he left the ring on La Brea. And that is at night, 6 o'clock, you know how long it takes. So everybody was waiting 45 minutes until the guy got back with the ring. That's already, the chassan did badekanish, chassan back in the room, he's dressed, with the kittel and everything, and the kala is ready to go, and nobody's going anywhere. They have to wait for the ring. Now, halachically, what you could do, and this I know was done by other weddings, you can take another woman's ring, matana menas lahachzer, meaning a gift, and the intent that you return it back. So let's say a woman in the audience who has a wedding ring will give it to the chassan as a gift, and the condition he gives it back, like lulav, remember? And the condition you give it back. So then when you give it back, at the time of the kedushin, it was 100% his. It was his. He acquired it. Was like his lulav. It's his ring. Afterwards, the girl gives it back, because again, halachically, if you give the girl a ring, and she accepts it, and then she throws it into the garbage, she's still married, it's still kedushin. It's nice for her to keep. I wouldn't suggest the cow to throw it away right away.
Give her money or something like that, right?
Yeah, you could give her something about, but the minig, like we said, the Ramah brings on, the minig is to do it with a ring, Kabbalistically a ring, halachically even the Ramah writes the minig is to do it with a ring. One thing, Thursday night, you didn't remember. I also didn't remember till now. But Thursday night we're discussing why you need to dedicate witnesses, why you need to call up 2 witnesses to designate them to watch the chuppah ceremony. And we didn't explain why. We said, no, it was late and we will continue it. There's a din in halacha, what's called Eide Shebatla Miksasa Batla Kula. If you have 100 witnesses, and one person of the 100 is not kosher, so all 100 are invalid. All 100 are invalid. In fact, the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah speaks about the witnesses have seen a moon. So what do you do if a father and a son see the moon together? I know. So it says, it's the Mishnah. So the Gemara says, the father or the son, one of them go, they both go, but one of them testifies and the other one doesn't testify. So then it's not. Now, the problem at the chuppah is that you have around the chuppah, you have a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, cousins, aunts, uncles, all the non-kosher witnesses that exist.
Right.
Kravim, or other things, women. Well, whoever's not allowed to be a witness. Now, when the chosin gives a ring to the kala, and they have in mind, in their own mind, to testify to it, so then they're testifying together with the 2 witnesses that you are watching it. So now, it's the 2 witnesses are also not kosher, because if you have a group of witnesses and one of them is not kosher, all of them are not kosher. So what do you gain by designating them as witnesses? Some people even add to the exclusion of all others, but halachically, if you say Reuven and Shimon are Eidei Kedushin, by designating them as witnesses, you automatically disqualify anybody else who intends to testify. So therefore, you only have 2 kosher witnesses. All the other people are not witnesses. It doesn't matter what they do. It's like by the Sfardim, they have a custom, by the Ksuba, there are like 3,000 people signing the Ksuba in the front and the back, underneath and the bottom. And half of them are relatives, half of them are not kosher witnesses. So why isn't it a problem to invalidate the Ksuba? Because those 2 witnesses that sign are the only 2 that are witnesses. And therefore, after the name, it says 8, witness, witness. The other people are just signing. They want to decorate the paper. I know what they want to do. But they're not signing as witnesses. If they would be signing as witnesses, the whole ksuba would be invalid. What?
On the ring, what happens if it shows like 18 karat gold?
Allah, we said, halachically it's not a problem. The only shaila in halacha is if it has a stone on it. Because then the woman might think the stone is worth more than it actually is, and it's to be an invalid. That halachically is fine. Our custom is not to have anything engraved, not even the 14, 18 karat gold. Halachically is fine. Even the whole ring is engraved, what did we say the other day? What is it called? Etcher, yeah. But it's still kosher. The minig is to do it without any of that stuff. Okay, so now that you did part 1 of the chuppah, which is kedushin, now you come to part 2. That's called nesuyin. So as we know, by a chuppah, in between the 2 parts, you read the ksuba. Okay? Now, now there's another interesting thing, by the way. Many people, I had this out with many rabbis at weddings, many people have a custom that before the kedushin, they unveil the bride a little bit, that the witnesses and the chosin could see who the bride is. Huh? No, you don't do that. The Rama says you don't do it. Poskim right, you don't do it. Sometimes they all right, you don't do it. Yeah, there are shittas in Allah that you're supposed to do it. Why? Because how do you know who? Maybe it's a different woman there. Maybe it's Leah instead of Rachel. Maybe, yeah, you don't know. But the pearl, they all bring down that you don't do it, dafka, and you don't unveil the what?
The mother-in-law is watching. So
What?
Yeah, it's the mother-in-law.
She's making sure it's nobody else? Whose mother-in-law? The chasans or the kalas? That's the question. Which mother-in-law? Okay. Anyway, so now, in order to separate, remember, we discussed this already, from part 1 of the chuppah to part 2 of the chuppah, part 1 does the kedushin that in the time of the Gemara was done 12 months earlier. Then the second part, which is the chuppah, what's called Nisuyin, the Birchas Nisuyin, and the Yichud, as we'll soon discuss, that allows the man and woman to now live together. The first part, kedushin, only forbids it to the rest of the world, and if they want to break up, God forbid she needs a get. But that still doesn't allow them to live together as husband and wife. What permits them to live together as husband and wife? That is what's called Nisuyin. Nisuyin are the Sheva Brachas under the chuppah. Okay? But to separate between the two, we read the ksuba, and then the chosin gives the ksuba to the kala. Okay? Unless she's needed, then the rabbi gives it to the kala. But bottom line is, you make a break between part 1 and part 2 by reading the ksuba, which is not actually part of the ceremony at all. It's a custom now to do it, but it's not actually part of the chuppah ceremony. It's just to break up between part 1 and part 2. In part 2, you have Sheva Brachas. Now there's a big discussion in halacha, should the first 2 brachas go together or not? There's a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam b'rei agafen, and then the next bracha is Shahako Baruch V'edei. So many poskim write, and this is the preferred way, that the 2 brachas go together. Because one bracha is only Birchas Hanenin, it's not actually, but halachically, poskim write, if you need to give out more honors, then you technically could separate the first 2 brachas, make them into 7. But the best thing is to make it into 6. In other words, the first 2 brachas go together. And to say the brachas, you could be relatives, you could do, anything you want. The only thing relatives are not good for are the witnesses under the chuppah. That's it. And then the ksuba and whatever. But for the witnesses, relatives are not good. Everybody else is good. Yichud room, we'll get to that in a second. Yichud room, it doesn't have to be, but in halacha it says it's preferred that the same Eidei Kedushin are the ones that are the Eidei Yichud that we'll discuss soon. There's another interesting thing that a lot of people do, and Chabad wasn't done now. I don't know why some Chabad rabbis started doing it. I haven't faint to say dear why. That when the chosin gives the kala the ksuba, the 2 witnesses that testified and saw the ring watch the way the chosin gives the kala the ksuba. We don't do it. A lot of reasons why we don't do it. The reason why they do it, they want to make sure that, but again, you don't need a mesira and a ksuba. Ksuba it's a financial document of obligation of husband to wife. I don't need to give you an IOU in front of 2 witnesses. If it's signed by witnesses, I give it to you. I don't need 2 witnesses. But many people in halacha, there's later poskim, not in Shulchan, but later poskim, right? Some people have a minig of having 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses watch the way the chosin gives it to the kala. Okay, next. Now, after the chuppah is the 7 brachas are done, chosin again drinks, kala again drinks. Then the chosin breaks the glass. Now, there's also a lot of different customs in the whole thing. And that is, many people, for the chuppah, will use 2 different cups. 2 different bechers even. One for the Birchas Kedushin and one for Birchas Nisuyin. And the reason for that, in Eitz and mitzvahs, chavilas, you don't pack 2 mitzvahs together. So most people, in fact, in the world will have 1 cup for the first brachas, and then for the Sheva brachas, they'll have a 2nd cup of wine. Many people will use a becher for the, because silver, it's nice. Chabad has a very interesting minig. We use 1 cup, and the chosin, the kedusha is done with that 1 cup, the wine, and then again they fill up the same cup of wine. It's not pogum because you're adding wine to it, even though they drank from it, but you add wine to it. So it's apidin, anyway, like a second cup. And then the chosin breaks that cup, that glass. So in other words, we won't use a becher, we won't use a silver thing. Many people have the glasses they use and then they break a light bulb because it's easy to break. We don't do that. The glass that they they did the brachas over, and the chassan and kala drank them twice. Then when the chassan drinks a little, the kala drinks a little, you give it to somebody else to drink. They drink it up, and then you put it, and the chassan breaks the glass. Now the chassan needs to make sure to break the glass with the heel of his foot, not with the sole. There was a chuppah here. No, it wasn't here. That chuppah was, it happened here also, but the famous chuppah happened in Montreal. A Lubavitch guy from here married a girl in Montreal. The wedding was in Montreal. So he, when he broke the glass, he broke it not with his heel, but with the sole of the shoe, the neshama of the sole of the foot of the shoe. The pearl, the glass, cut through the shoe and cut his foot. That he had to run right after the chuppah to the emergency room to get stitched up. It hit mamish into a vein. He had it stitched up. So again, the thing was postponed until the guy got back, until the chassan got back with the stitches.
Same night?
Same night he went. But what was unique, after he came back and they started dancing, everything, he was dancing, the chassan was dancing a lot the whole night. After the wedding, the stitches reopened. So after the wedding, he went back. I don't want to say a name. It's a name everybody here knows. He went back to the emergency room to get it restitched. So since then, all the rabbis, at least locally, you know the story, we always tell the people, make sure you do it with your heel, not with your sole. What?
Quick question. You want to finish the story about the wedding that you did, that the guy had to go to Rabbi to get the ring?
Yeah, he just came back 45 minutes later.
Why didn't they just borrow?
Because it's still, they wanted to have their own ring.